Hello, everyone. This is part two of my experiences with the paranormal and the demonic. Now, where did we leave off? Okay, so we're in the 1970s, the mid-1970s, and we've got this house that's full of apparitions, full of noises. We have my friend getting pushed down by something that he couldn't see. We have my uncle being punched by something he couldn't see. We have orbs, we have scissors, we have hands, we have an Indian squaw, we have a short man, Zachariah, we have what I believe to be his wife and also his daughter that I had seen in my bedroom. And I mentioned the well that Zachariah had purportedly thrown his wife and daughter into. I was very drawn to that well. I was always making my way back to it, knocking down the briars and brambles to just stand near it. It was all full of cinder blocks, rocks and glass and garbage and different things, as though there was some attempt to fill it in. But I found myself very drawn to it. Now, what I want to mention too at this time, during the 70s, was just the overall oppressive feeling in the house. It was cold. There was such heavy depression, especially for me, for my parents. I don't think my sisters were as affected by it, at least they didn't say. Things were always very tense in the house. As we got toward the mid-70s, my parents were not getting along well. There was just a feeling of oppression, fear, anxiety, heavy constantly. And again, I would wake up at night thinking the house was either on fire or about to catch on fire. And the noises never stopped. We didn't see as many things after a while, but it seems like we heard more of them. Around 1975, my parents had enough and decided that they wanted to sell the house. And they called a real estate company, and two agents came over one evening to look at the house to prepare to market it. An older woman and then a younger woman. And I won't share their names, but they walked into the kitchen, and the older woman, again, to the best of my knowledge, she had never seen the place or been there before. She walked in, and she said, "This house," I'm paraphrasing, "this house is loaded. There's all kinds of presences in here." And she's looking around. And the younger agent said, yes, I feel them too. They're everywhere in here." And we're going, What? Why would you know this? You've never been here before. And quickly, the interest seemed to turn a little from real estate more toward what was in the house by these two strangers that had come in that we'd never seen before, who were real estate agents. And there was quite a lot of talk amongst all of us, what we'd seen, what we'd heard, and both women agreed, "Oh yeah, that's all here." And the older of the two said to me, "Yes, that little girl you saw, she's here. Oh, yeah, they're all still here, and we need to communicate with them." And then it was suggested that we hold a seance in the house. And of course, we're very into this ghost thing by then, as much as it's making us frightened, as much as it made us want to move out, we're also intrigued and fascinated by it. And we agreed to have a seance. So again, this was initially supposed to be a real estate meeting. So the two agents came back. We agreed to set up a seance. It was a few nights later, and they brought some other strange friends with them to sit around this table. We sat around our dining room table. We lit candles. We held hands. And we all discussed what was in the house, and we asked various things to appear. I asked the little girl to show up, and I think maybe my dad asked for Shorty to show up. And the funny thing was, I had visions of the little girl, but nothing actually showed up while they were there. But when this commenced and they all went home and it was agreed we'd put the house on the market after all, that's when my feeling of oppression, anxiety, and depression, now this is the summer of 1975, just increased. And in the meantime, again, in this small town is the Erie Canal and the Erie Canal towpath. I had been spending a lot of time down on the canal and on the towpath, hiding out, taking long walks at night. I was very drawn to walk down there at night. And fishing, it was and is a terrific place to fish for bass and pike and panfish, bowfin. I would find myself going down there even more often, and I began to feel things that were there. I'd never felt this before, but I began to feel presences all over the towpath when I was down there that summer. And as I recall, the summer of 1975 was a very hot, very humid summer in upstate New York. And in the heat of the summer, I would feel things with me. I would hear things whispering in my ears. I would occasionally, something would tell me there's a good fish, there's a good pickerel or a good pike right over there. Throw your spoon over there, or throw your spinnerbait over there. You're going to catch them, and I would. But also there was feelings of, it's like something kept saying to me, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. You're not safe. Something's going to happen. You better be careful. And at this time, I was getting picked on quite a bit by some of the other guys in town. This town I grew up in was a small town. Nothing was there. But it was a very rough town. A lot of hooligans that lived in this small town of mine in upstate New York. And even though I'd been there for a few years, all of a sudden, it seemed like everybody wanted to fight with me. Everybody wanted to have at it with me. And, well, I... as much as I was afraid, I learned to fight pretty well, and eventually I had proved to them that I was not a guy to be messed with because I would hurt you, and I did. But the feeling of danger just increased, and yet I was drawn to it. I want to go down to the canal. What am I going to hear? What am I going to hear? And I would hear music. I would hear during the summer of '75. The song "I'm Not in Love" by 10cc was a big hit. Melissa Manchester's "Midnight Blue." What else was a big hit at that time? "Magic" by a band called Pilot. It was a very Beatle-esque sounding power pop song that I really like. That song would play in my head. Oh, ho, ho, it's magic, It's like it kept playing over and over again. Oh, ho, ho, it's magic, And I'm thinking, yeah, it's magic, and they're talking to me, and they're following me around, and this is great. They're telling me where the fish are, and it's magic. And I was so into it. And it was everywhere I went. And then I began to realize that the towpath, there's a lot of stuff down here, just like in the house. There's all manner of things. I can't see them, but they're following me, they're talking to me. And my dad would like to fish down there too. But my dad became very frightened of going down there. He was terrified. Jim, I can't go down there anymore. There's just something scaring the hell out of me. I'm not going to go down there anymore. And I believe that just like these popular culture shows that you watch now, the ghost hunter type shows, where they go into these buildings and they measure paranormal activity and with their infrared lights and their meters that they have. And I just whacked my keyboard. That stuff is real. It's in there. What that is, those are not ghosts. Especially if they go into places like prisons or old hotels. And this is where I'm trying to wrap this up now. These are demons. These are demonic clusters that were on these various people that were in there, that were given over to it. And when they died, those things remained. They don't always just wander off or dissipate. They hang. And just like on the old Erie Canal towpath. Now, the Erie Canal towpath and the canal itself has appeared in every fiction book that I've written. Especially in my book, The Wayfarers, it is a very significant part of it. But while this Erie Canal towpath through my small town is very alive with this activity, it also represents something else, something quite the opposite. And you'd have to read the books to find out. But meantime, my life, it just seemed like everything would go wrong. I was constantly depressed. Everything I touched broke. Everything I tried to do failed. My mother was constantly at odds with me. Everything I touched turned to crap. Everything I tried to do. I was a failure. I was a failure even with the girls I wanted to date. I was a failure in school. I was taunted and tormented by things I could not see. It was terrible in the house. I'd run down to the canal towpath to hide. And down there I would hear whatever I wanted to hear. Yeah, Jim, this is a good place to be. You just hang out here and listen to us. And I began to. I began to think that I had psychic powers, because we were very into the psychic, into the paranormal now. And then this one real estate agent, the older of the two, was into psychic readings, and she wanted to read my tea leaves for me. So now this is the fall of 1975, early 76. And we thought, yeah, that'll be great. I want to have my tea leaves. I'm going to find out all the great things that are going to happen to me. And so she had me drink a cup of tea, and then she stirred the leaves, she and her daughter, and they used my wallet. They pulled personal belongings, as sort of trying to put together a spirit map on me. And they told me that I was going to be a great success. I was going to have a lot of money as a musician. And what's interesting is they told me I was going to be an evangelist. Okay, here's something now. At the time, I had no idea. Here are two people that are dealing truly in the occult. Told me I was going to be, excuse me, a successful, famous evangelist, that I was going to turn away from the rock and roll music business and instead make evangelical music. And I was going to have a lot of money and be very successful from it. And of course, I ate that right up. They told me that there was a certain girl that I had an interest in. She had been a girlfriend of mine a couple of years before, that she was trying to make contact with me. You have to excuse me, folks. I have a hairball. And sure enough, shortly thereafter, I started dating this girl again. Didn't last very long, but here's the thing, okay? As I'm trying to get close to wrapping this up for you folks, I did eventually, years later, after all this torment, after all these ghosts, I did turn to Jesus Christ as my Savior and Lord, and I did start making evangelical rock music. Okay, can you say that the psychic told me this was going to happen? It was a move on my spirit to do it. Have I had any great success from it? Not at all. No. Has it made me a great deal of money? No, hardly any. Hardly any. Every musical endeavor I try to do, and you can check my music out. I always link to it in these videos. Every musical endeavor I try to put forth fails. Something goes wrong. Something gets broken. It's that same type of thing that has dogged me since the 1970s. Everything I get excited about becomes dismantled. I started recording an album called So Very Soon. And what I was able to get out of that is still available to you to check out. I think there's 6 songs on it. We released it as an EP. It was supposed to be a full-length album. There's good quality recordings there, some decent performances, but we never were able to get the final mix downs. We were never able to get the final little tweaks done to make it just as strong as I wanted it to be. There's some strong songs there, especially Talking to an Angel. But it got broken. My good friend that I was recording it with, the hard drive on his recorder, his Zoom recording keyboard, broke. It fried. We lost most everything. This is what I had left. Strangely, all of a sudden broken. He never backed it up. I tried to get him to back it up. He never would. That project basically was destroyed. But I'm not here to complain about all the things that go wrong for me. I'm trying to wrap this up now for you, and part 2 has already gone longer than part 1 did. What I want to leave you with, ladies and gentlemen, is this. There is no such thing as ghosts. Oh, but Jim, you saw them in your house. No. This was demonic activity. When you die, you don't hover here in this world trying to figure out what it was that killed you and try to solve problems or reaching lost ones that well, I died before I was able to deliver this message to my friend or my mother. When you die, you go to heaven to be with the Lord Jesus Christ, or you go to hell. You don't remain here. There are no ghosts. They are demons. These television shows that you watch, where you see these mediums that can communicate with the dead, they are communicating with demons. Yeah, but it was my grandmother, and my grandmother had a message for me. It wasn't your grandmother. It was a demon masquerading as your grandmother. You need to get wise, ladies and gentlemen. This is what has led me to this point with you in these 2 videos. All that stuff in my house was demonic. It wasn't ghosts. Zechariah killing his wife and his daughter, demonic. All those things we saw were demonic. They weren't dead hands. They weren't scissors used by a dead person. The Ouija board didn't help. Stay away from Ouija boards. Stay away from tarot cards. All of that stuff. Psychic mediums, stay away from it. Don't get your tea leaves read. Stay away from all of that stuff. That stuff is all demonic. We are in a spiritual war. I was in one then. I'm in one now. You are in one. We are in one like, I would say, at no time in our history. There is only one way, and that is through Jesus Christ the Lord. He is the one that will defeat the demons. You need him. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. There's no Allah, there's no Buddha, there's no fairies, there's no whatever you want to worship, no statues. None of these things are going to save you. All of this stuff is demonic. Jesus is the answer. It doesn't mean that your life is suddenly going to become rosy. There's going to be rainbows and Kool-Aid. You meet some Christians that seem to live a life that way, and those are the Christians that I pray for. I went through years of living amongst demons. Not entirely sure how they got there. And as I may have mentioned in the first video, that house is now gone. It was torn down. It was torn down to facilitate the widening of the bridge over the CSX railroad tracks in this town. So exorcisms are on the rise. But there's no need for this. You need to turn to Jesus. Demons tremble at his name. I'm still dogged, but I'm saved and I'm strengthened. I have difficulty doing the most simple of things. Everything I try to do, something gets in the way. But it's possible that it's God preventing me from getting into trouble. Something as simple as recording a music soundtrack. You can't believe all the trouble I'm having just trying to get that done. But in closing, there is no such thing as ghosts. If you're given over to this stuff, if you're finding strange noises in your house intriguing, apparitions that you're seeing intriguing, if you think this is all a lot of fun and games, you are running down a pathway to sure death. Turn to Jesus. Seek his saving grace. It's your only chance. God bless you, folks. Thank you for listening to my tale. I will be here with more content for you very soon. If there's anything else along this topic I come up with or remember or can share with you, I certainly will. But this is not anything to be messed around with. God bless you, folks. I'll see you soon.